We are back with more Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest. Yes, I was gone the last 2 weeks on vacation, so I did not cover chapter 191 when that initially released. But I ended up having some really fun videos for you guys that you actually seem to have enjoyed, so hopefully I'll make more videos like those in the future. But we're back with these new chapters as I'm covering chapter 191 that I missed, alongside chapter 192 that just released this week. And I'm mixed on these chapters. I have a lot of thoughts on these chapters, some bad and some good, some kind of in the middle. But we'll get to that when I go into the actual chapters and I give my full thoughts on the matter. So we'll jump right into those in a second. But before we jump into things, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to check out me talking about American comic books, I have a second channel called GW Comics where I talk comic books. Marvel, DC primarily right now. And I'm going to be jumping on to other comic book publishers like Image Comics for other series as well that I'm just going to talk about stuff that I'm enjoying reading at the moment. Also, go and check out my weekly manga podcast, Showing Pulse, over on the Panel Focus YouTube channel. Right now, I am back with Nox, Yatogami, and Papa Traffy, with the four of us talking about 9 different manga on a weekly basis from 3 different magazines. It's a lot of fun, you guys will enjoy it, and we're very, very close to 1,000 subscribers, so look forward to that. And we're doing a bunch of short chapter reviews, little by little, on series that we are not covering on the channel. So look forward to those as well, as you'll get thoughts on each and every one of us for different manga. Links for both of these channels will be in the title card and in the description down below. Now then, on to Fairy Tail. So let's start off with chapter 191 of 100 Years Quest, titled Real Dragons. And the cover image is the Fairy Tail girls relaxing in a pool back at the Guild Hall. Lucy, Erza, Mira, and Juvia. Beautiful. No notes. I like it. Many of us do. Now then, let's get on to the actual chapter, as we continue from last time where Natsu knocked Weeb back with one punch. Weeb gets back up as he reacts to Natsu calling them not real dragons. As Weeb says, "Don't talk to me about what's real." As his allies tell him to calm down, and that he's got a bad habit of getting all heated up. The characters all also kind of realize, oh yeah, Natsu uses fire magic just like us, and that there's some overlap. But Weeb tries to insult him, saying that they don't know what real flame is, with Gray nonchalantly saying, "Don't we? This guy's real dangerous," with Natsu reacting like he's insulted, but then he stops himself being like, you know what, that's actually kind of fair. Self-awareness for Natsu, that's actually something I kind of enjoy from time to time for a bit. But Erza tells him it's enough time for talk, and that they should release the town. But in response, Rekka, and as well as all of Fire and Flame, unleash their fire, and seemingly begin to burn all of the townspeople alive as their dragon forms, as we see them all beginning to torch away. It is a very, at least for Fairy Tail and 100 Years Quest, very graphic in this instance. There's enough leeway that you can just speculate how bad this is, as they're just saying, well, let's just burn up all the townspeople, as well as his entire continent, as now everybody is in shock horror and is pissed off, especially Natsu, as he tells them, what do you think lives are worth? I like it when Natsu gets like this, because this shows how he cares about people's lives and emphasizing his moral compass, despite him mainly just wanting to fight for his friends and family in Fairy Tail. But Weeb launches towards Natsu, with Natsu blocking his punch again, kicking him as well, as Lucy and Erza lunge forward, with Lucy going into her Aquarius form, as the two of them lunge towards the Signario sisters, hitting them with their own blows. Gray and Lekka clash, with both Ice and Fire make hammers, as they stalemate each other. Wendy tries to use her enchantment magic to boost herself and the others. It's then that she gets turned into a jellyfish using Raj's illusions, and even though this is an illusion, she tries to snap out of it, but Raj keeps messing with her, putting her into a cocoon like what happened in the older arc. But Wendy affirms that no matter what she looks like, she's going to win, she won't lose, because I'm me. As she goes into Dragon Force, full force beginning to launch after both of them, as Wendy uses a Dragon Slayer's secret art with a flare burst sky drill point blank at Raj, and Erza hits one of the Signario sisters with Sea God's Marine moment, Gray uses Ice Demon Zero's Bow of Annihilation on Rekka, and Lucy uses Aquametria on the other Signario sister. As it's then that 4 members of Fire and Flame are hit with devastating blows, and Natsu gets heated up even more, saying that they ain't real dragons, and your flames can't burn us. As it's over, with Natsu beginning to crackle with flame and electricity, as he goes into his lightning flame dragon mode, hitting Wed point blank with blazing depth charging sword, a new attack, as Wed is burned and electrocuted from Natsu's power, as then all of Team Natsu lunge forward and deal the finishing blows on Fire and Flame, with the end of this chapter being everybody triumphant, Natsu telling them that they are 100 years too early to take them on and get in the way of their 100 years quest. And that ends the chapter. Now then, this chapter is incredibly controversial. And I see why. You want to know why? Because it's just not a good chapter. While I do like all these different moments, finishing moves of the characters, Wendy going Dragon Force and all that stuff, and more stuff going on with like Natsu and everything, I cannot defend this chapter. I'm sorry. It is way too quick, and with what we know, sorry for spoilers, the next chapter, it's confirmed that they did beat Fire and Flame, even though they got Dragon boosted, and it just really made me just disappointed in this instance, because I was really hoping that Fire and Flame would be genuinely good antagonists, and we'll get full one-on-one fights against them. Not this big group thing that everything happens all at once. And it was just so disappointing right now. I wanted to see more of these characters clash. I wanted to see more of Rekka and Gray clashing with their maker magic. Wendy taking on Raj makes sense and all that stuff, but I did want to see Erza fight Wed due to the fact that they were set up at the beginning of this arc. But she fought the same Signario sister, I believe it was Annie. She fought Annie again and dealt the finishing blow. Lucy beat Uso and all that stuff, and I'm like, cool, these finishing moves are great. They're awesome. They look fantastic. The fights were just bad. It was just bad. And amping up the stakes, getting them angry by making it, basically lighting the entire town on fire, trying to kill the entirety of the town that they were in that instance, I was like, okay, we're getting serious here. And a lot of people were speculating, oh, maybe this could also work similar to how dragons are in Magic. The more you kill dragons, the more dragon-like you become, stronger you are, yada, yada, yada. It's not technically how this works, because they're not dragon slayers, they're actual dragon-ish people, I guess. But, like, I don't know. This was a bad chapter. I'm just going to be straight up. Bad chapter, bad pacing. This fight against Fire and Flame that was built up at the beginning of this arc, these fights were disappointing. I'm going to move on, but, like, it was just a bad chapter. It's got cool moments, but the actual fights themselves just dragged this chapter down a lot with how it was executed and everything. Yeah, I'm sorry. If you like this chapter, that's good on you. I really didn't like it. Yeah, let's not dwell on a relatively bad chapter. Let's move on to the next chapter, which I actually have a lot more to say about, and I'll give my thoughts later on. So let's move on to chapter 192 of 100 Years Quest, titled A Greater Threat, as we see Wed, and then Wed Dragonified. I wish we saw Wed without the dragon aspects with his original armor off, just to see what he initially would look like outside of just having Ignia's face, but like, it is what it is. But the chapter starts off with it being revealed that the town was never being burnt by Fire and Flame. It was just one massive illusion Raj made, seemingly with an amp by the rest of Fire and Flame. And while, okay, that's cool, it's disappointing because I feel like Fire and Flame would just burn the town and its citizens to the ground as a show of their dominance. But I guess Majima didn't want to, like, literally just take out an entire village like that, and that'd probably be too dark in that instance, but whatever, it is what it is. But, interestingly enough, Wed is still holding on, telling everybody that it's not over yet, with Natsu actually getting kind of excited. Oh, you want to go for round 2, huh? But Happy confirms that, yeah, the fight's over. They lost. They beat their asses. But Wed tells them humans will disappear from the world, as Natsu says they're going to stop it. Wed says that they can't beat his father, Ignia, but beating him is their job. But Wed then asks them, you'll wipe out dragons for humans' convenience? Gray says that they heard that dragons did some bad stuff and that they came here to end their century-long threat. And that they'd actually prefer to get along with dragons regardless, as Erza says that Wendy and Natsu's parents are dragons and they're not fighting out of hatred. Natsu says part of it is so he can test his strength, while the rest of them saying, no, they're not fighting for that. But this silence is weighted as he's still incredibly angry. But Natsu goes on to say what Ignia's doing is wrong, so they're going to stop him. It ain't about human convenience. We're fighting to stay alive. As this does kind of resonate to an extent to Wed as he sees their motives, and you know what? Makes sense. They don't want to die against an onslaught of new dragons and stuff like that, so I'm like, you know what? Very relatable goal. Makes a lot of sense. So, kudos to Natsu for that, I guess. But Wed then says to stay alive. I wonder if he'll be able to say the same to the Calamity Bloods, confusing the group as Wed collapses. So, we got a tease of more new characters. So, we'll see who they are in a second as we finally catch up to Ignia, as we finally begin to learn what this presence he felt was. The presence that was so important that he decided, yeah, Ferris, I'm gonna let Bestia take you on right now. This is more important in this instance. So, he goes over to what seems like a giant hole in the ground, flies down, and turns back into his human form, all while Misfortune is following them. As we then see these giant egg-like structures cracking and breaking. As we see something break out. With Ignia says, so you finished them, Dagramag. The Calamity Bloods who will destroy humanity with their ultimate strength. As we get a double-page spread showcasing 5 new characters. And I'm not gonna lie, these are some really, really cool-ass designs. I gotta be honest. My favorite is definitely the girl one, for many reasons, and the giant one at the end. Honestly, they all look really cool. Not so much, at least to me, towards the one on the far right corner. But these all look like really cool designs. And Misfortune is confused as she's realizing, wait, Ignia had fighters who weren't in Fire and Flame, and he's been hiding them this whole time? Ignia goes on and says, you all distinguished yourselves in the fighting 400 years ago by killing massive numbers of humans before Acnologia appeared. Now, one of these dragons with the butterfly-esque mask says, why are we in human form? With Ignia saying that Dagramag, the Earth Dragon God, preserved them for 400 years, spreading his roots with his labyrinth, feeding the continent's power to even you when he died. So, he didn't just make those roots for the ultimate dragonification plan, the resurrection of the dragon gods and stuff like that, unleashing their full power, making them go berserk. But Dagramag, as part of this plan, was feeding power to these 5 new characters, as they are dragons, actually. They're powerful dragons. And so, one of them with the mohawk says, so we're 400 years in the future. The more orcish-looking one says, weird, I feel like I've been here before, as the woman ends up asking, who might he be? As Ignia says, I'm Igniel's son, the fire dragon god, and that I even fought Acnologia. My name's Ignia. First off, I am so glad we finally got actual confirmation that Ignia did fight Acnologia. Because while we all assumed that the dragon gods fought Acnologia at certain aspects, we wondered, how are they all still alive? So some of them had their excuses, like Alderone he did lose, but he managed to avoid Acnologia completely killing him by rooting himself into the ground and using his orbs to kind of revive himself and hide in public, essentially. Selene would just escape to a different dimension. Mercphobia was hiding in the waters. And Vierness turned into a concept, so Acnologia could not track him eventually. And Ignia, I guess he managed to hide himself to an extent, but we can assume that he did fight Acnologia for a point, so we finally got confirmation, and he survived. So, thank you, I'm glad. Though he probably lost, in my honest opinion, and ran away. That's my thought on it, considering the fact that Ferris, when she first appeared, basically caught Ignia's attention and silenced him when she asked him if he was afraid of Acnologia's power. But then one of the other dragons, with the more serpent-like appearance, asks what happened to Acnologia, as Ignia reveals that he was killed at the hands of humans, shocking all 5 of these dragons that humans were able to kill Agnologia, and that they cannot believe this. The new mommy of the group ends up asking that no, he was human once before, perhaps his power is of the same sort as theirs. But then the other one says, are you saying that the humans who killed Agnologia are a threat? That's why you want our help? But Ignia says, oh no, I can handle humans fine on my own. As the other one says, wait, even the ones that killed Agnologia? But Ignia gives an interesting piece of information. They're incredibly weak on their own, but when they banded together, they killed Agnologia. So I do like how Ignia does give credit to the humans, to even Fairy Tail. That individually, yeah, they wouldn't have been able to beat Agnologia, 100%, even Natsu. But by banding together with all their power, they did manage to beat the ultimate threat of this universe. And so it's nice that Ignia gave credit that this is the strength of the humans, that them banding together, they managed to beat something that even these powerful dragons could not do, that the dragon gods couldn't do, defeating Agnologia. So I like how even though he does talk down about humans and wants to destroy them, he acknowledges their strength in numbers and teamwork to band together. That is an important aspect, and that's probably why he built his Fire and Flame guild, and why he brought these dragons together in this instance. Now the Mohawk dragon ends up saying, I still can't believe it. Even we couldn't take down Agnologia when we banded together in the past. But Ignia says, thanks to Doggermog's magic, the power they had 400 years ago pales in comparison to what you have now, as they all sense that their power has increased tremendously. Ignia says destroying the humans, it's going to be easy. We could trample them in an instant. But he says, what fun would that be? We gotta scare them much, much more. So he wants to instill terror in the humans, showcasing who's boss before he inevitably erases them from existence, basically, and makes them extinct. So Ignia just wants to have fun with this right now. He doesn't want this to be just a one-and-done thing, which I do kind of think he can do for a good chunk of the world. And for the characters that we've seen, they can stand up to dragons with power, especially ones that have been boosted to this degree. But instead we get individual close-ups of all 5 of these dragons, as we see the Sea Prism Dragon Anchor, saying 400 years ago, we failed to exterminate the humans. We then see the Rock Soul Dragon Earthbuild, saying, you're gonna let us finish that now? We then get Scissor Runner, the Scissor Sound Dragon, I can cut the humans down. And Levia, the Life Geo Dragon, saying that this sounds fun. And finally, the woman of the group says, let's meet again, humans. With it revealing that she is the Earth Mother Dragon, Mother Glare. Now, when I saw this, a light bulb clicked, and many others I've seen in the community click. Mother Glare is a familiar name. That is the same name of one of the 7 dragons that Future Rogue brought to the present through the Eclipse Gate during the Dragon King's Festival at the end of the Grand Magic Games arc. Implying, based on these designs, that these are the same dragons that the Dragon Slayers fought during that arc. Mashima brought these dragons back to the present and gave them human forms, and now they're here to fight, even stronger than what they were before, and in human form. Now this is insane. What's more threatening than humans turning into dragons? Actual dragons amped up by the Earth Dragon God. Honestly, this is a really cool reveal. I'm actually kind of excited for this because this could imply that we'll be getting round 2s for all of these characters, because outside of Zirconis and Atlas Flame, who Zirconis died to Agnologia, and Atlas Flame became the Eternal Flame for the Giant Village, these 5 dragons seemingly could not beat Agnologia in the past, and seemingly Doggermog brought them to this destination, Giltina, preserving them for his ultimate plan with Ignia to boost the Dragon God's power multiple years in the future, and even these to be the advanced, strong forces of Ignia right now. Now this does beg the question, are these characters as strong as the Dragon Gods now, or at least a tier below them? Now look, the powered-up Dragon Gods were definitely out of leagues for most, if not all, of Team Fairy Tail. They only won through technicalities, like what happened with Lucy and the Lacrima, and the surprise aspect with Mercphobia. Celine got caught off guard by Wendy, so Wendy managed to separate the Lacrima, snapping Celine out of it. I would have made an entire video explaining what happened with Gray and Viernes and why I didn't like the execution of it, and like the Vieira's one is the only one I really do not like, and it's kind of like very iffy and kind of plays down Vieirness a lot. But right now we have Alderaan fighting Selene, and he is a lot stronger than he was before, so I'm excited to see where that leads as well. So at the very least, we have 3 Dragon Gods still around, with at full power, so that's something I'm looking forward to, but I don't think these dragons are going to be on the same level as full power Dragon Gods, but I do think they will be significant threats potentially in the future, considering the fact that the Dragon Slayers could not do a damn thing to them when they were dragons from 400 years ago, and now they got an amp. Now, Dragon Slayers are stronger, but I do kind of hope we get rematches for all these dragons against the original Dragon Slayers. And Mashima, please, bring Diablos here so that they could help against these dragons, because they've been irrelevant this entire arc. They've been irrelevant ever since they became allies at the end of Dogramag's arc, and I'm like, just bring them back. Just bring them back. Now again, whether Mashima will end up fumbling this group up with Fire and Flame or actually hold true with these characters is still up in the air. Now we've had multiple chapters of build-up and anticipation for the Ignia power sense that made him drop his fight with Varys. Now we have it. We have these incredibly powerful elite group of dragons that were amped up by Dogramag and entering the Ignia as they want to sow terror before destroying all humans. Let's see where this goes. I'm going to save my overall judgment for this as we see these guys further, but it is making this arc incredibly cluttered by having 3 groups of new characters introduced in the same arc, while one basically got very easily defeated for the most part against our main group. And you know what, yeah, and the other one, I actually don't have too much qualms with the, well, Books of Ferris fights. It's just that they were just kind of short for the most part. But I do like how some of the wins were. But either way, we'll see where that goes. We'll probably come back to that next time. Let's hope that these dragons don't disappoint, because I really, really want this arc to actually stick the landing at the bare minimum, so it could actually be a decent arc and a binge read. But we'll just have to wait and see. But back to the chapter. Miss Fortune sees all this and is incredibly terrified. But back to the present, Wed is knocked out, as everybody is wondering what they're going to do about the townsfolk, and ask Wendy if she can de-dragonify them. But since it's not a status abnormality, she can't do anything about it. But that's when Lucy says that what happened back in Ermina, once she destroyed the Lacrima, all the people turned back to normal. So they just have to destroy the Lacrima that's probably inside of Alderaan's body. So they have to go and take on Alderaan right now in order to destroy the Lacrima. And they have to go take on the demons now. But Natsu tells them, no, we're not going to do that. As he actually smells Gajiel, Mira, and Elfman, and even Wendy smells them and even brings up Juvia as well, as everyone's wondering why they're all here. But Natsu tells them that they can leave things at Alderaan to Team B. Plus, they have Selene with them. So they'll have an advantage since they have a Dragon God on their side as well. Happy ass what they're going to do, but Natsu, serious right now, says, can't you guess? We're going to settle things once and for all with Ignia, as the chapter ends. So, chapter 191, bad chapter. Chapter 192, decent chapter. Nice hype and build-up. I don't have too many qualms with it. But I do have to say I was disappointed with Fire and Flame, and I do hope that the Calamity Bloods, as they're called, it's an okay name, I guess. It'll probably grow on me. I hope that these dragons that were from the Dragon King's Festival do give us good fights and last long. I just want the main characters to lose. I think to sell the impact, have Fairy Tail Team A take on these dragons, lose, or at least come close to losing and have to escape, showcasing that they still have to get stronger. That Natsu still needs to get stronger, especially if he wants to fight Ignia as well. Then we'll have the Ferris fight, we'll have the conclusion of the demon fights against Fairy Tail Team B, and they'll culminate in what's going on right now. At least that's what I hope. Either way, a lot's going on right now. That's kind of one of my concerns. This arc's getting a bit too cluttered for me in terms of just introducing new characters, building some stuff up, all that. At least at the bare minimum, the Blood Calamities were built up in anticipation for a couple of chapters in terms of the mystery of why Ignia left Ferris to go check something else out. So at least that is a relatively satisfying thing. It's also a nice bit of fan service to bring back these dragons that the Dragon Slayers could not beat during Grand Magic Games. And now it's 2 years later from that aspect, and they're brought back in human form, essentially, with even more power than what they had beforehand. So I'm curious to see where this is going to lead. But how do you guys feel about these chapters? How do you feel about the blood calamities and these dragons? How do you feel about the disappointing defeat of Fire and Flame, that they seem to have only been stepping stones for the actual main group of antagonists at this point for this arc or the future of 100 Years Quest? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And what's more, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel, and it shows you want to see more. I'll probably make a video on my speculations on the blood calamities in the future, so look forward to that. But we'll just have to wait and see how things will play out. Now, with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.